The Fantastic Four are among the most celebrated and beloved teams in the entire Marvel universe. Since their debut in November 1961, this ensemble has etched their place within comics history, not only being the initial building block of Marvel's resurgence in the 1960s, but also being the company's first family. In the 63 years since their debut, the team of Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and The Thing have had countless memorable adventures on the printed page, with writers such as Mark Waid, John Byrne, and Jonathan Hickman all telling incredible stories with these characters and continuing the legacy of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's iconic original run of stories. However, whilst the Fantastic Four have no shortage of great comics, their history on the big screen is somewhat different. Ever since the mid-1990s, Hollywood has attempted to bring this team to life in several major motion pictures, but none have fully captured the essence and the spirit of this unlikely band of superheroes. At the time of recording, we have 3 theatrically released Fantastic Four films, 2 directed by Tim Story in the mid to late 2000s, and the 2015 remake by Josh Trank. But perhaps the most interesting attempt to adapt this group of heroes came a decade before their first big budget feature film was released. In the mid to late 1990s, Home Alone director Chris Columbus was tasked with bringing Marvel's first family to life, and over the next several years would envision a movie unlike anything seen before by superhero fans. And in this video, I want to explain the history behind this unmade Fantastic Four film, discuss how the project was conceived and the various attempts to bring it to life throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, and consider what might have been and the impact it might have had, and not just the perception of this group of beloved comic book characters, but how it could have changed the entire landscape of superhero films. Before we continue though, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to Owen Likes Comics so you don't miss out on any future videos. The Fantastic Four have been an ever-present fixture of the Marvel Universe since their first appearance in 1961, appearing in their own comic series, as well as frequently crossing over with the likes of the Avengers, Spider-Man, and the X-Men. And although they made their big screen debut later than some of their fellow superheroes, Hollywood had been attempting to bring Marvel's first family to life for many years before their eventual 2005 film. In 1986, Marvel licensed the team's film rights to German producer Bernd Eichinger, who, alongside Studio Constantine Films, began devising ways to make a movie based on these characters. As per their deal, Eichinger had 5 years to develop a Fantastic Four film and get it into production, with the contract stipulating that if the movie wasn't ready to shoot by the 31st of December 1992, the rights to the Fantastic Four would revert back to Marvel Comics. This proved to be a somewhat challenging endeavour for Eichinger and Constantine Films. Keep in mind that this was several years before the release of Tim Burton's Batman, and at a time when no Marvel property outside of Howard the Duck had made it onto the big screen yet. Despite attempts to shop the property to both Columbia Pictures and Warner Brothers, Eichinger struggled to get Fantastic Four off the ground, and by the fall of 1992, the producer seemed no closer to getting this motion picture made. But with the release of 2 highly successful Batman films during the period in which he owned the rights, the producer knew that there was an appeal for live-action superhero films by a mainstream audience, and Eichinger feared that another studio would capitalise on this demand if he lost the Fantastic Four rights. This eventually led to the producer making a deal with Roger Corman, a longtime director and producer best known for his work on low-budget B-movies. Corman was signed on to produce a Fantastic Four movie in late 1992, with the stipulation being that he had to get the film in front of cameras by the end of the year. It's been alleged that when the deal was agreed, Eichinger's only instructions to the filmmaker were, "I want a Fantastic Four flick and I don't want it good, I want it Tuesday." Eichinger believed that by greenlighting an incredibly low-budget film, it would satisfy Marvel's requirements and allow him to retain the rights for another 5 years, giving him the ability to either release the low-budget film at a later date or use it as a proof of concept when shopping the property to other larger studios. With Corman at the helm, Ole Sassone was hired to direct, while Craig Nevius and Kevin Rock penned the screenplay. Casting took place soon after, with Alex Hyde-White, Rebecca Stabb, Jay Underwood and Michael Bailey Smith signing on to play the titular four heroes, with stuntman Carl Chiafelio portraying the Thing in costume and Joseph Culp joining as the villainous Doctor Doom. Impressively, Corman and Sassone's Fantastic Four movie managed to begin production on the 26th of December 1992, 5 days before Eishinger's contract was set to expire. Filming took place over the next month on an estimated budget of only $1 million. Although principal photography wrapped in January of 1993, the studio undertook several months of editing, visual effects work, and composition of the film's score, as Eischinger began pitching new ideas for a Fantastic Four movie to other studios. It's worth noting that according to reports, much of the cast and crew weren't aware of the producer's intentions. To them, it was an exciting project and an opportunity, a chance to bring to life one of comics' greatest ensembles, and many involved with the film were invested in making it as accurate and as faithful as possible. Despite Eishinger's plans, a tentative release date was even set for the film, January 1994, with a premiere scheduled at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota, with all proceeds going to various children's charities. These plans were eventually cancelled though, as Bernd Eischinger purchased the film negatives from Corman's production company and shelved the project entirely, as he negotiated a deal to bring the Fantastic Four over to 20th Century Fox. In the years since this movie's dissolution, Eischinger has maintained that it wasn't always intended to be scrapped, and instead, he claims that Marvel studio executive Avi Arad encouraged him not to release the film only after principal photography had concluded. In the March 2005 edition of Los Angeles magazine, Eischinger was quoted as saying,
"Avi calls me up and says, listen, I think what you did was great. It shows your enthusiasm for the movie and the property, and I tell you what, I understand that you've invested so and much, and Roger has invested so and much. Let's do a deal." Because he didn't really like the idea that a small movie was coming out and maybe ruining the franchise, you know? So he says to me that he wants to give me back the money that we spent on the movie and that we should not release it.
Arad would also note in a 2003 interview how he was alerted to the movie's production after spotting a fan wearing a t-shirt publicising the film, and would later purchase the negatives from Eischinger in order to have all copies destroyed while the producer worked on financing a new production. Despite Arad and Eishinger's intentions, this Fantastic Four movie did eventually see the light of day, leaking online many years later and now being available to watch on YouTube. Alongside this, Marty Langford's 2015 documentary, Doomed: The Untold Story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, preserved the memory of this unlikely production, giving the cast and crew an opportunity to share their work and their memories of bringing these beloved superheroes to life. But if you want even more info on the plot of this movie and more details on its production, Godzilla Mendoza recently covered it on his channel in a really excellent video. I'll leave a link in the video description, so do go check it out once you're done with this video. I highly recommend it. Nevertheless, in August of 1994, Variety reported that Fantastic Four had indeed found a new home at 20th Century Fox, and that director Chris Columbus, best known for his work on Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire, had agreed to helm a $40 million adaptation of Marvel's First Family. Eishinger's dream of properly bringing this ensemble to the big screen had seemingly been realised, but over the next several years, this seemingly promising and exciting announcement would ultimately prove to be anything but fantastic. Mr. Fantastic may be the smartest man alive, but it doesn't take a genius to know the importance of protecting yourself online. And that's why I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Nord. Nord strives to make the internet a better, safer place, protecting you from malware, trackers, and surveillance using their excellent threat protection feature. If you want to stay safe from online threats and enhance your overall online experience, nordvpn.com/OwenLikes has you covered. Alongside this, Nord also allows you to access region-locked content from across the world. Have you suddenly developed the urge to rewatch the 2015 Fantastic Four movie just to see if it was really that bad?
Say that again?
Only to log into Disney Plus and discover it's not there? Well, with nordvpn.com/OwenLikes, you can switch your region to the United Kingdom and watch it with a click of a button. One account protects up to 6 devices, and it's completely risk-free thanks to Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So to get 4 months free with a 2-year plan, head to nordvpn.com/OwenLikes or click the link in the video description. By the summer of 1994, Chris Columbus was a highly successful and respected director. After debuting with 1987's Adventures in Babysitting, the filmmaker found commercial and critical success with the acclaimed family comedy Home Alone. Along with its 1992 sequel and Mrs. Doubtfire, released the following year, Columbus had quickly become one of Hollywood's most sought-after names. As such, Fox's hiring of him to helm their ambitious Fantastic Four project was huge news, as both the studio and the director spoke excitedly about their plans to bring these beloved comic book characters to theatres. After his hiring in August of 1994, Columbus enlisted novelist Michael Chabon to write a short outline for the film. Chabon would submit a 3-page treatment in late 1995 that would set up the major story beats and characters for the Fantastic Four. Chabon's pitch would make several interesting creative decisions. Firstly, he omits telling the team's origin and instead sought to introduce the team fully formed. He also describes the world of the Fantastic Four as being something of an alternate history, set in the present day of the mid-1990s, but with the tone and feel of the early 1960s. The writer also earmarked Doctor Doom and Galactus as the two best choices for villains, pitching a plot that would see Doom travel back in time, attempting to change the course of history. After receiving Chabon's treatment, Columbus hired Michael France, best known for his work on Cliffhanger and GoldenEye, to write up a complete screenplay. While Chabon's pitch drew inspiration from popular sci-fi movies, namely The Terminator, France instead drew heavy inspiration from the comics of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, as well as Richard Donner's 1978 Superman movie. France's script, dated May 1996, came in at a noticeable 160 pages, and would serve as an origin story for the superhero ensemble. This version of the film would introduce Reed and Sue as already being engaged, as the pair, alongside Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, are enlisted to work on nanotech at the International Space Station. Here, they meet Victor Von Doom before an accident causes the station to malfunction, with the crew all exposed to an experimental nanolaser and crashing back to Earth. Upon landing, the survivors discover their bodies have been changed by the accident, with each developing extraordinary abilities. After being monitored by the government, who attempt to cover up the accident by stating the scientists were killed by cosmic rays, Reed, Sue, Ben and Johnny all become unlikely superheroes after preventing a terrorist attack in Times Square. Meanwhile, it would be revealed that Victor Von Doom had also survived the crash and had made his way to Latveria. Heavily injured and now clad in a H.R. Geiger-inspired armour, Doom orchestrates a revolt in his home nation and installs himself as monarch, and with the backing of the Latverian military, wages war on both the United States and the Fantastic Four. France's script climaxes with the heroes travelling to Latveria to battle Doom, who has created a weapon that he seeks to use to destroy the east coast of the United States. During the fight with Doom, the villain's armour would be severely damaged, revealing that Victor wasn't horrifically disfigured as previously thought, but instead he has just one barely visible scar. The film would conclude with Reed and Sue's wedding, as the couple jet off in the newly built Fantasticar, with Ben and Johnny proudly in tow. France's script wasn't without ambition or reverence for the source material. In many ways, it feels like the product of a long-time Fantastic Four fan. Each of the four protagonists is well written, even though Ben and Reed's relationship differs greatly from the source material, with the two almost being rivals for a good portion of the script. Despite being initially well received though, France's treatment was deemed to be expensive, likely surpassing the $40 million budget that Fox had allocated. While the studio debated whether to greenlight this script, Columbus began hiring artists to design costumes and circle potential actors. Tim Flattery sketched numerous pieces of concept art for this version of the film, while reports at the time speculated that Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan were in line to play Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. Eventually, these plans were scuppered as Fox put the movie on hold, as they looked to develop a new script and get the film's spiraling budget down. As new writers were approached, Columbus decided to step down as director in order to focus on other projects, though he remained actively on board as a producer. In his place, Peter Segal was hired to direct in April 1997, before extensive rewrites on the script and continued concerns over its budget saw him depart by the end of the year. While this bold attempt to adapt the Fantastic Four at one point seemed destined to be made, Columbus's departure and Fox's inability to commit to a script or budget saw numerous delays and setbacks in pre-production. Although the studio did extend its 5-year option with Marvel to retain the rights in early 1999, the movie was put on long-term hold as Fox focused its attention on bringing the X-Men to the big screen instead. X-Men would eventually be released in 2000, and its success would allow the Fantastic Four to escape from development hell. But as the project was seemingly rebuilt from the ground up, it would evolve into something far different than the movie that Chris Columbus once imagined. By the start of 1998, 20th Century Fox found themselves at a crossroads. Having already dedicated several years attempting to produce Chris Columbus's version of the Fantastic Four, the filmmaker had departed the previous year, as several rounds of rewrites were undertaken to tweak Michael France's screenplay and curb the movie's ever-increasing budget. After Philip Morton revised this script, Fox would hire Batman screenwriter Sam Hamm to pen an extensive rewrite of the movie, as Roger Gosnell, Chris Columbus's longtime editor, was approached to direct. In a 1998 interview with Cinescape, Sam Hamm excitedly outlined his vision for the film, stating that,
"The fun of doing a team story is that it's really about an extended dysfunctional family. The notion of comic characters having to deal with petty real-life issues, in addition to alien invasions and supervillains who want to take over the world, is what gave them so much flavor, and that's really what we tried to capture in the script."
Hamm's treatment, dated December 1998, would retain some elements of France's previous drafts, such as how the team obtained their powers, becoming celebrities after encountering a group of terrorists, and the inclusion of Dr. Doom as the main villain. However, this latest screenplay was noticeably lighter in tone. Reed and Sue are not introduced as being engaged, and its depiction of Doom differs greatly here. In Hamm's film, Victor Van Damme is introduced as a member of Reed's crew on an interstellar mission to Mars, and a scientist working in nanotechnology to regrow limbs. After his experiment malfunctions, mutating his crewmates into the Fantastic Four, Doom exiles himself to Latveria, later being revealed as having turned his skin into nanite and gaining electricity-based powers. Whereas in France's script, Doom waged war on the United States, this take on the character would be far more personal, as he attempts to capture the Fantastic Four and harvest the nanites within them to make himself more powerful. Hamm would complete 2 drafts of this version of the script, as Gosnell officially signed on to direct in early 1999. Unfortunately though, Fox would once again demand the budget be reduced, and faced with another round of delays, Gosnell chose to instead prioritise directing the live-action Scooby-Doo film. Although initially he stated his intentions to direct Fantastic Four after Scooby-Doo's release, by 2001, Variety announced that Peyton Reed had been brought on to helm the film instead. Reed initially proposed making the film as a 1960s period piece, allegedly working with artist Alex Ross to conceptualise the look and feel of the movie. This idea was rejected though, and Douglas Petrie was hired to work with Reed and develop a new version of Hamm's script. Petrie's treatment, dated February 2002, maintains a lot of ideas found in both Hamm and Michael France's drafts. The script begins with an exciting action set piece of the Fantastic Four stopping a bank robbery, before flashing back to explain how the team gain their powers. Similar to previous drafts, Dr. Doom would join the protagonists in their exhibition Into the Stars, but this time he would purposefully sabotage their experiment in an attempt to expose himself to cosmic radiation. Petrie would divulge further details about his script in a 2002 interview with MTV, explaining that,
"I wanted the poster for the movie to be the cover for the first issue, where basically you do a live-action version of a giant monster ripping through Fifth Avenue and Fantastic Four kicking its ass. For budget reasons, it went to something else, but it's still a giant opening scene. It's A Hard Day's Night. It's everybody going to watch the Beatles. The other scripts were very big on these are astronauts that go to space for the first, half hour. It was something like Armageddon. I just kept saying it's gotta be like A Hard Day's Night."
In the same interview, the writer offered a list of potential actors for each of the 4 main roles, pitching Alexis Denisov as Mr. Fantastic, Charlize Theron as the Invisible Woman, Paul Walker as the Human Torch, and John C. Reilly as the Thing. Petrie's screenplay was seemingly well received by those at Fox, and Peyton Reed's version of the Fantastic Four seemed destined for the big screen, with the movie even receiving a tentative release date of late 2004. However, these plans changed when Peyton Reed chose to exit the film in 2003, with Twin Peaks co-creator Mark Frost being hired to write one final revision of the script. In April 2004, Tim Story would sign on to direct, and the film's cast was confirmed later that year, with Ewan Grufford, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, and Michael Chiklis portraying the 4 main heroes. Tim Story's Fantastic Four film was released worldwide in July 2005, grossing over $330 million, despite lukewarm reviews from fans and critics. It did prove successful enough for a sequel to be commissioned in the form of 2007's Rise of the Silver Surfer. While this movie also underwhelmed both critically and at the box office, these two movies did mark a tentpole moment in the Fantastic Four's history. Some 20 years after Bernd Eichinger first obtained the rights from Marvel Comics, and following a variety of attempts by different filmmakers to adapt these fabled heroes, the first family of comics had finally made the jump from the printed page to the silver screen. While it's certainly fascinating to consider what might have been if Chris Columbus and Michael Francis' ambitious version of the movie had been made, with the Fantastic Four soaring into cinemas in late 1998, or if Peyton Reed's Beatles-inspired movie was shot and released in the early 2000s, I think the eventual 2005 film does carry over many elements and aspects from each of these different screenplays and ideas. While Fantastic Four may not be the most fondly remembered superhero movie, paling in comparison to the likes of X-Men, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins released the same year, given the difficult production and over a decade spent in trying to bring these characters to life, there is something to celebrate about the final product. A film that, while it may be flawed, certainly captures the feel and the spirit of why comic readers fell in love with the Fantastic Four. And even though today, close to 20 years from the movie's release, the Fantastic Four are yet to receive the truly definitive motion picture, I think it's worth reflecting on the journey these characters have taken to get this far, and remain cautious and hopeful that the next time these beloved characters make their way onto the big screen, it will be in a film that is undoubtedly fantastic. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on this video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed this and you want some more, there should be some other videos on screen right now that you might also enjoy. If you want to help support the channel and help me make more videos, click the join button at the bottom of the screen and sign up as a YouTube channel member, or go to patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. Or if you just want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter just at Owen Likes Comics. But that's all for this video. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you next time. But until then, take care and keep reading.